Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Pathfinder, Lord of Nothing. As today we continue fumbling our way through the dark, though a bit more cautiously perhaps now that we have some idea of what's actually bumping around out there. And I will say, I'm sure I've shared this story a few times in the past, but it honestly reminds me of one of my earliest experiences with running 3rd edition D&D, which of course Pathfinder's based on, but specifically with the classic 3rd edition starter module, Sunless Citadel, which I absolutely loved. I ran the crap out of that thing for multiple groups over the years. But back in the day, before the power creep had really set in, it was deceptively deadly, and a lot of players just weren't prepared for that. And I want to say the very first group I ever ran ended up having something like 50 or 60% casualties when they chanced upon the Shadowed Altar, a gloomy room centered around an altar with undead shadows lurking in the darkness. They couldn't figure out what was going on, why their strength was draining away, and then finally the group's leader proudly proclaimed he had solved the puzzle and walked up to the altar, only to immediately die as he provoked, walking away from shadows. Because he was a halfling sorcerer with like 5 strength. Raw chaos ensued, half the party falling back, and it led to the fateful moment where the group's rogue, whose name has been lost to the mists of time, asked if he could hide in shadows. And the answer was yes. Hiding in shadows was not a problem. In fact, it was so easy, he never came back out. But yeah, that's definitely the vibe I get from this place as well. Albeit on a grander scale, I suppose. Anyway, sorry. Probably shouldn't start my video rambling for 2 minutes about my old Dungeon Master days. As I recall, we had our first real sort of boss fight of this particular sub-quest ahead. I buffed our guys up as best we can, so let's go press our luck. Path on right. Probably the way we're supposed to go. Oh, blind lunatic. Didn't realize I left any of you guys behind. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I hooked a right here, I think. As opposed to left, I walked right past that little alcove, I guess. That's fine, we'll clear that up on the way back. For now, though, our primary goal is to clear this pending threat. Oh, goodness. Walked right into him. Fire off a haste. And then let's see if we can sneak in a quick opener.
You're not a threat, you're an obstacle.
Ah. Got the haste, flubbed the first strike. Fair enough. Nice, nice. Soul Eaters seem pretty straightforward. I'm noticing a lot of buff markers on that Devourer, though. Let's go ahead and slow that guy down. Buy ourselves some time to clear the ads. Alright, well, I mean, that's not really what I wanted you guys to do, but I guess that works too. Oh, two can play at this game, the Devourer growled. A snap of his fingers and a bony legion of his own leapt up before him, nigh indistinguishable from our own, but for their reddish-purple aura. Honestly, I'm just happy he hung back. The summons are no problem. I'm just worried about whatever else he might have hidden up his undead sleeve. I'm not all that familiar with Devourers in general, let alone this particular souped-up version. They're unique to Pathfinder, I believe. I never really ran much Pathfinder. You know, I sort of dropped out around the 3.5 days. Skipped a big swath of 3.5 to 4th edition. Test betting various other games. So I kind of missed out on the initial early day surge of Pathfinder. Came back to D&D just in time for 4th edition, though. Yay. But that was by the demands of the job. I didn't particularly think it was a good system, but you know, they needed me to showcase the product to help get it off the shelves. But yeah, short of it, never really played much Pathfinder outside of just these Owlcat games. So my familiarity with a lot of these more esoteric enemies is extremely limited. Did you just try to eat the soul of a skeleton? How'd that work out for you? Anyway, yeah. So bringing it back full circle to my, I guess, sort of opening ramble about Sunless Citadel and the Shadow Encounter. My experience with dungeon mastering does, I suppose, really kind of
Don't hold back!
unduly influence my playstyle when it comes to making these videos. You know, Baldur's Gate, Solasta, Pathfinder, of course.
I am about to rearrange your face.
I try not to spoil myself too much on, like, the actual nitty-gritty mechanics of unfamiliar beasts, because I want to kind of feel them out like a player would have to at the table. There are some, of course, where I have... Yeah, there we go. See, now we're actually doing some damage. There are some cases, of course, where I have the distinct unfair advantage of having been a dungeon master. You know, so I have inherent knowledge of at least some aspects of the old settings and various mechanics and whatnot. But, you know, that becomes more and more outdated by the day. I ran 4th edition right up to its end, but that was largely just as part of my work. I ran a little Pathfinder, but barely anything beyond just product demos. And my experience with 5th edition is essentially non-existent, since it popped up after I stopped working that job. So my main exposure to it are Solasta, which uses the rule set, but also their own unique custom setting.
Strike!
And Baldur's Gate 3, which, you know, Larion pretty unabashedly did not bother trying to balance out or make entirely. Rules as written. Hey, there we go. Yeah, that's all we really needed was to hold out until we could proc one of those giant outflank crit storms. I know I frustrate some viewers with the less than optimal way I approach a lot of my character builds and combat encounters. And, you know, I'm just going to say, hopefully that gives you some context as to why I approach them the way I do. I do it as if I were a player. Also, I think it's fairly obvious these days that I will go all in, commit fully to the bit when it comes to mechanics that make me laugh. Hence our current crew and their tripping/group beatdown dynamic. Or, you know, Karlach tossing people around, Kibbles and her afterburner boots, etc. Anyway, this guy was pretty tough, but not too bad. I'm sure the key will come in handy. And unless I am mistaken, this hallway should loop back around to where we came in. Oh, shoot. Ah, hi there. Oh, well, I didn't even notice that was an opening. Okay, well that's just awkward. Oh, and Gaia just made it even more awkward. Dude was already phased halfway through the wall. Now Gaia is right on top of him.
I'll gut you!
Hopefully we can drop this guy before the inevitable health tax. We're out of group heals, so topping off is a bit more of a hassle now. Ah, you mook. Alright, you got us. Now we're all slightly dinged. Congratulations. Mission accomplished. You have slightly inconvenienced us on the way to the bigger and badder bosses. And we're good. Thankfully it was just Ice Storm instead of Lightning Bolt. Gotta be careful about that Shadow Veil, though. And that is indeed where we came in. So, assuming that the Devourer encounter was optional, given that there was an alternate path presented, I assume that this here is also an optional side path. But before we head down there, let's go ahead and clear that one last cell block. Yeah, we'll clear these guys and grab that loot real quick. Then delve ever deeper. Alright, what do we got? Dazzling Dagger. +2 Bleeding Drakiith Dagger, which also dazzles enemies on hit. Not a bad get, but we don't really have any dagger guys. And Iron Maiden. Ooh, which Grim opened. Was that perhaps what our black key was for? I certainly hope not, because this is a pretty mediocre loot drop. But we'll take it. Ah, and there we go. Yeah, I was wondering if you guys were going to attack. I felt kind of bad about preemptive striking last time around. But, hey, if you make the first move, I will defend myself. Not that they pose much of a threat, but there's not exactly disengagement mechanics in this game. That aside, let's be honest. They're probably better off this way. Alright, alcove cleared. And that's probably our main path, though the shadow door might be a second side path. And then, of course, that's just infinite void. So yeah, I feel pretty good about checking this door first, then the second shadow door, then the main risen path. Oop. Reservoirs of boiling liquid. Lovely. Okay, you know what? We've actually got an item for this, which I think was supposed to help us with Old Man Akshan, but we never ended up fighting him, so nice to get at least some use out of it. Wait, why can you not use this? I thought if you could cast the spell, you could use any associated wands or scrolls. Alright, that's fine. We'll just swap it off to brown, I guess. Who also apparently can't use it? So can anyone use this? Is it... Wait. Oh, okay, that's... Okay, I guess it's just like the arcane version of the spell specifically, thus only sorcerers and wizards and other derivative classes thereof can use it. That feels a bit misleading, but fine, whatever. The important thing is that we can now get past the boiling point. Honestly, it's that kind of fiddly nonsense that kind of disenchanted me with 3rd edition in the first place. Tendons are cracking, tearing. More! More! My lord does not answer my prayers, but instead sends me trials. A gaping wound on the back of the fetchling's head is filled with wriggling maggots. Yeah, that certainly tracks. Ooh, hello. Ah, another missive from our missing paladin. With no sun, the passage of day and night is imperceptible. How long have I wandered through these dungeon halls, seeing only pain and misery? I have opened dozens of cells, but the prisoners do not want freedom. They welcome the pain and suffering inflicted upon them. The torturers greet me as an old acquaintance and do not interfere. My mission is no longer secret. Every shadow knows a paladin of Shaylin is here. I broke into the cell where one of the fetchlings was crying. Shaylin teaches that love heals, and I wanted to console him. He was the only one here who yearned for comfort. A torturer appeared out of nowhere, woven from the shadows. He slammed the door, taking away the sword and shield I had left behind. Now I, too, am a prisoner. Oh, buddy. Just a ringing referendum for wisdom minimums on paladins. Yeah, one of the viewers actually mentioned that that guy, this paladin of Shaylin, is a roundabout reference. The fetchling opens his toothless mouth, showing you a tongue cut to shreds. Gross, I hate it. Ah, water! Why am I still alive? I mean, don't ask me. I feel like, you know what? You guys have fun. I'm getting out of here. Ow. Yeah. Apparently, one of the viewers noted that our paladin of Shaylin over there is a roundabout reference to Kingmaker. Specifically, the one who ends up getting into a duel with Valerie. This guy cites himself as one of that guy's students. So that's a fun callback. Oh, shoot. Right, and because of her weird subclass or archetype. Penta can't inspire competence, which would be nice for some of these tougher checks. I'm not sure if there's any other easy way for us to boost those checks. We don't have Touch of Good. We don't really have easy access to any other spells that bump checks of that particular type. Alright, well, fingers crossed. The dead man's bone-white skin is riddled with burst blisters and burns. It appears he was slowly boiled alive over several hours. Okay, well, I mean, I feel like just contextually we could have probably guessed at that. But thanks.
Battles await.
See, like, minor quibble. Just from a dungeon layout standpoint, I feel like that check might have been more useful had we encountered that corpse just outside the water area as like a forewarning. Then the skill check would make more sense because we would know that guy had been boiled to death before actually just wading into the water. Minor quibbles, though. Hey. Yep, guess we're fighting.
A negligible obstacle.
I will say, though, I mean, as a dungeon master who's been around since the AD&D days, I've run a lot of bad adventures, and I would not necessarily say this is a bad one. It's got some problems, but while the Wrath campaign, while the main campaign is obviously significantly better, I'd probably still give this like a 6, 7 out of 10.
Oh, look. Walking loot.
It's decent. As a semi-standalone side story, stapled onto a greater campaign. Gosh darn it. It obviously had a much more limited budget, so there's a lot more of those inherently goofy, forced story points or questionable binary choices.
I'm right here, where you
Not to mention, of course, the general hints at story points they really seem to have wanted to flesh out more, but for whatever reason just couldn't. That I do think would have ultimately added more general nuance and immersion to the overall experience. But I've certainly seen worse, and at the end of the day, it is just a video game, not an actual full-on collaborative tabletop experience. The story is set. We're really just along for the ride. Alright, so what was that guy guarding? Oh, hello there. Someone we might actually be able to talk to. Or some new flavor of nightmare to enjoy. Oh, hi. Also, I noticed Grim once again took lead on opening that, so I guess the black key actually just opens all these Iron Maidens. Not really needed, considering that we had Record in tow, but sure, why not? Oh, and there's our real prize. Another lore object. My cellmate is quite talkative. He said you could escape the torture chamber through a secret passage and explained how to open it. The passage was supposed to lead to the chitin who terrorizes local fetchlings. I walked down the passage until I collapsed from exhaustion. When I awoke, I was back in my cell. There is no secret passage to the Master. It was just another way to torment the prisoners. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's why I'm not super optimistic about Ulob's situation. The fetchling on the table before you could easily be mistaken for a dead man, but breath still rasps from his chest. The prisoner's torso, face, arms, and legs are covered with jagged spikes protruding from his flesh. Their arrangement forms a bizarre, repeating pattern. Let me guess. Does he like it? Callistria have mercy. I can understand all sorts of perversions, but this is beyond me. Let's not jump to conclusions just yet. Hey, can you tell us who you are? Servant, trophy, game, and player! The man's insane laughter is interrupted by a gurgling cough. Right, and what exactly are you, playing at? The great game. I am the most important component of this match. When the last move is made, I will be replaced by another. But I will not give up. I will endure. Yes, I will endure. A blissful smile stretches the spikes protruding from his face to the sides. And I'm assuming that has something to do with all these things sticking out of you? Yes, each new spike sunk into my flesh is master's move. Outstanding. Brilliant. I am the board for our game. He comes here when he's ready to make his move. I'm sorry, I'm not really understanding the goal of this game. It's not for fools. The prisoner tries to lean forward, but his spike-studded body does not obey him. Each spike forms a chain, creates a pattern, defines the meaning. Break it, you lose. Continue it, and you prolong the agony. Prolong the game. I suspect placing spikes along the main lines of the pattern continues the game. If you break the pattern, it will end. Or will a new pattern appear? The rules are too vague to understand with any certainty. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of intentional. Okay, look, do you require assistance? His bulging eyes dart from side to side. Yes, help! My game has been going on for an eternity, and it will last just as long. But my body no longer obeys me. Pick up the spike I dropped on the floor. Stick it into my belly, just under the sternum. I'm going to be sick. The gnome looks into the prisoner's face with disgust. Let's help him and get away from here. I can't bear this horror much longer. If you're going to play with them, hurry up. I agree with the gnome. This is a disgusting spectacle. No doubt his master will be pleased we're joining in on the torture. Respecting the local customs, as it were. I mean, I asked if he wanted help, and he told us how we can do it, though interestingly, it seems implied through context here that he has asked us to specifically place it somewhere that would cause him to lose the game, and thus perhaps to be replaced, to stop this eternal torment. The spike tears skin, its jagged edges biting into the bleeding flesh. The prisoner's mouth stretches into a relaxed smile, spilling blood. I chose a glorious move. Glory to the Dark Prince. Away. Oh, not gonna lie, I really kind of expected you to die right after that. Now it's awkward. I'm gonna go. I mean, look, I took a stab at it. I'm still not really sure what the point of all that was. Other than, I suppose, just being kind of gross. But in the grand scheme of things, that was honestly relatively tame. Like, especially after the horrors of Komora over in Rogue Trader. Though I suppose, really, our big prize there was the faded note. That's it. Let's push on. Ooh, trippy. Real Dark City vibes there. Thousands of torture chambers move in the emptiness, forming an endless chain of cells. The number of prisoners tortured within is equivalent to the population of a small city. Path down. Okay, so that's a whole another area. Nice, nice. Death Ward and True Seeing. We also got a glimpse of some enemies down below, which does appear to be the way they're channeling us. I'm not seeing any other options here. Record! No! Why? I'm sorry, what? I mean, I will agree with Record sentiment. 2 sentries is too much. Not entirely sure what to make of that either, but that's fine. We push on. Oh, boy. And into the charnel pits we go. What is this disgusting slime underfoot? My shoes are entirely mired in this muck. Sentry, I mean, given our surroundings, you probably really don't want to know. It's better not to think about it, Sentry. Just keep walking and don't let your eyes wander. Trust your legs and try not to breathe through your nose. There are hundreds of lifeless bodies decomposing in this noxious sludge. Followers and victims of Zon Kuthan's cult from all corners of Galarion, whose earthly journey ended here, in the Shadow World. Oh. Hi.
This will be quick.
Ice-covered barbarians. How peculiar. Not exactly much of a threat.
It's you or me.
But perhaps a hint at things to come. I will say, being ambushed by zombies in the charnel pit does perhaps imply our friend over here might be some sort of necromancer. Fetchling Reanimator, flanked by a pair of ice-covered barbarians. Can we actually talk? I mean, he's marked as hostile, but... Alright, fair enough. Oh, shoot. Shadow Demon just tagged in.
Run them through.
Yeah, that does complicate things a bit. See, like that, although minor, that event choreography made more sense. The piles of bodies, the sudden undead ambush. That was a nice little brief hint at what you were about to walk into. As opposed to the weird, oh, you jerk. The weird cistern of boiling waters. You know, minor. Something that just really kind of jumped out at me as a dungeon master. Also, I will say, I'm very much an old school dungeon master. I haven't actually run a table in almost, I want to say 10 years now.
Out of my way!
Last campaign I ran, I want to say, was a Shadowrun campaign, which stopped mid-mission because the group just kind of finally broke up. The fate of many a gaming table. It was a lot easier to find replacement players when I still worked at locations that sold and hosted games. But, you know, it's fine. If I had kept doing that, I probably never would have started doing this.
I'll gut you!
Running a decent table, let alone juggling multiple tables on different nights of the week, in and of itself is essentially a full-time job. Alright, let's clear this guy out.
Die!
We are starting to wear a bit thin on some assets, though. Might need to consider resting soon. Oh, Record, you're killing me, man. Yeah, we're gonna have to, we might have to double back to the entrance and rest.
You should have run!
But we'll poke around a bit more first. I think we've got enough healing in the tank
Let me take some notes.
for one last top off. Okay, so that's probably the way out. Oh, let's grab the loot. Nothing all that notable? Yeah, it's all basic +1 stuff. Though we do have another opening over here. With another lore object. Lovely. I'll take that. Oh! Which also nets us an Achievo. Always a pleasant surprise to see those pop up. Time has lost all meaning in this endless night. I am alone, and sometimes it feels as if I have been alone for years. How I miss the torturer whom I cursed during my first days here. Torture would be a pleasure compared to the countless hours of darkness and loneliness. It will all be over soon. They promised to take me to see the Master because I am his special guest. Perhaps he will grant me death. Quick, slow, it does not matter. Whoever is reading this, I beg you, run away before you lose all that is dear to you. That's rough, buddy. I'll assume our errant animator was not the poor paladin, but rather some other poor local passing the time with other purgatorial pursuits. Oh. Trixie. Record.
I managed.
Oh, and another Achievo. I mean, I'm certainly not complaining, but that does seem to imply that we're coming up on the end of this particular dungeon. Though it feels like we've still got a fair bit of map ahead of us. Let's keep an eye out for anything that looks like an obvious checkpoint or like an autosave, since that would definitely mark, I think, that we are in fact approaching the end boss. Not sure we actually have time for that today, so that'll probably be where we'll cliffhang it. Ooh. Well, this is new.
I report a success.
There are hundreds of lifeless bodies decomposing in this noxious sludge. Oh, weird. I don't think that's the right descriptive text, I feel like. Yeah, that's the one we had down in the charnel pit. Methinks they put the wrong description on that particular inspection node. Because clearly that is not what we're looking at over yonder. Branching path. Oh, ma'am? Help! I beg you! Help me! No pain. Okie dokie. Well, that's the thing that happened. Ah, and look at that. We do indeed have a rest point. So that would certainly seem to imply we're coming up on the end. Great. A dragon. That's the last thing we need. Right. Once again, very basic, but nice foreshadowing. So perhaps we're not actually coming up on the end, but rather... Oh, lore object, lovely. But rather a second, like, mini-boss fight. Like the Devourer was. A shadow dragon to bypass before we confront the Chitin Lord himself. Also, I guess this must be our cultist of Sithhood. Oh, frozen lord, your cult is no more, and there is no one left to praise you. Those weak of body have perished, and those weak of spirit have turned away from you. When the impostor took over your realm, when you stopped blessing us with the strongest spells, when your voice faded, every time the unfaithful cursed your name and left, until I alone remained in your temple. My faith has never wavered, for you revealed your greatest scheme and entrusted me with the most sacred of treasures, the precious shard of your soul. I bow before your genius. No one else devised a plan so visionary and ingenious that even death, even scorn and oblivion, are become mere steps on your path to greatness. The age of glory will come, but first must pass the age of silence. The world must forget your name for you to return as its rightful lord. It matters not that other fragments of your soul claimed the bodies of the unworthy, for I have seen the truth. Every hour you spend slumbering in the abyss while your shards wander the mortal world, you are bringing the two worlds ever closer to each other, like the subtle but inevitable advance of a glacier. The land that your enormous servants once called home now bears the name of Sargeras. It is inhabited by ignorant fools who pray to pathetic gods, one of whom is the very impostor who usurped your domain. None of them see that the abyss is approaching. 100 generations of mortals shall come and go before we witness the final stage of your plan come to fruition. But you have bestowed upon me the gift of eternal life among these icy ridges. And when the foreseen comes to pass, when the abyss is rent asunder and your icy winds sing across Sargeras, I shall be there to revive your cult. I will welcome you and lead your armies to conquer worlds of mortals. Eternal glory to Sithud. May his will be done, and may his kingdom come, in both the abyss and on Golarion. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? Though I will say, it does certainly add some interesting context to the whole, not just the Sithud thing, but also just like the world wound in general. The implication there being that his decision to fragment his soul is, at least in part, what contributed to the abyss finally intersecting the prime material plane. Feels like a pretty grand implication for a glorified side story, though. I'd take that with a grain of salt. It also does seem to mark this as a pretty good place to call it. Our guys could really use a breather anyway, so, we'll hit the pause button, I'll take care of the camping off screen, get our guys topped off, reset, ready to go for next time around. There's also something I want to go back and double check, the spot where we saw those cells going up and down. It almost seemed like one of them might have come into alignment where we could step over. I'm going to say probably not, but I do want to at least give it a quick peek. So yeah, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll take care of all those things, and we will pick up here next time, as apparently we've got a dragon in the wings. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help keep this channel going, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Arrow Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Let me take some notes.